Hello everyone! This here video, it's going to be more of a discussion video, as during stream we've had a couple of interesting conversations about the Maw, about irredeemable souls, and what makes a character fit to pay for their sins in Revendrift, or to be directly sent into the Maw. What makes it so that a spirit should just spend all eternity in hell? Or should all spirits be given a chance at redemption? To start off with, this is what they told us about the Maw during Blizzcon 2019.
This mysterious place known as the Maw. So, to our knowledge anyway, there is no covenant. But our knowledge is very, very limited about this place. You see, the Maw is a swirling vortex of darkness. It's almost like a black hole. And precious few souls over the eons, the Arbiter would send directly into the Maw. Those were seen as the most tainted, the most irredeemable, the darkest, most dangerous souls that were consigned to the Maw, as much for their own potential punishment as to protect the Shadowlands from what they could otherwise bring with them. Thus, the Maw is a mystery to even the natives of the Shadowlands, even the ancient ones. It's known to have, through whispers, a ruler known only as the Jailer, but the Jailer is almost like the boogeyman of the Shadowlands, right? It's the whispered figure of children's tales that, oh, you know, the big bad Jailer is going to get you locked away in the Maw. But basically, nothing is known because nothing has ever escaped the Maw.
Precious few souls sent directly into the Maw, the most tainted, darkest, irredeemable, as much for their own punishment as to protect the Shadowlands for what they otherwise could bring with them. Precious few souls, but definitely those that are immediately labeled as irredeemable. An example that we had in the past, that was from the short story Edge of Night, in which, at the end of Wrath of the Lich King, Sylvanas yeeted herself from the top of Icecrown to end her undead torment. Instead of the blissful afterlife that she was expecting, she ended up in a realm of eternal torment. Even the spirit of Arthas was there. And if any part of Sylvanas' soul were not at that moment torn and tormented, she might have even felt, for the first time, the slightest glimmer of pity for him. In the grand landscape of all the world's suffering and all the evils of the infinite, the Lich King was insignificant. This was to be her eternity, the endless void, the dark, unknown realm of anguish. The Maw, as we can now call it, and at this moment in time, this is when she got in contact with the Jailer. She made a bargain with the 9 Valkyr, and with their aid, she returned to Azeroth to continue her story. Back then, hell, it did seem a bit harsh for someone like Sylvanas. Sure enough, she has done some terrible things to claim her vengeance upon Arthas the Lich King, but this realm was rather gruesome. Arthas as well, he has done some terrible things, but there were circumstances. This had us wonder if perhaps the perversion of being turned into undead, if that just meant a one-way ticket into hell. All the Death Knights, all the Forsaken and the Scourge and the Banshees and whatnot, all of them being undead, that means you get to enjoy eternal torment. We were wondering back then what was going on, what was up. But then the Bastion Afterlife short released, and we got a very important piece of this puzzle.
I see. Only darkness before me.
Now, cast him into the Maw. Return him to the darkness he served. His eternal suffering awaits.
He was my student.
Remember what he did, and take your vengeance.
Not vengeance. Justice.
Arthas' soul was claimed by Uther and Devos, ferried to the Shadowlands, but not to be presented for judgment by the Arbiter. Instead, they were the ones that caused him to go directly into the Maw. Who knows what kind of judgment the Arbiter would have seen fit, and potentially going against the machine of the Shadowlands. Potentially that is what allowed the jailer to drag Sylvanas in as well. And then a second bit of information that comes to us from the Revendreth Afterlife shorts, in which Sire Danefrius, he explains how they do their work in Revendreth.
Firstly, I assure you that our holy mission to help the most violent and wicked souls atone for their sins is and always will be our utmost priority. Our rituals are effective. Our judgment keen but fair. We, Venthyr, remain committed to bringing eventual redemption to all who desire it. It is through your faithful work that even the most evil and prideful beings may ultimately be spared an eternity in the Maw.
The most violent and wicked souls, the most evil and prideful beings, get their chance at redemption if they want to take it. That's not to say that everybody is going to be on board to pay for their sins in life. Even during questing, we see a spirit that's like, nah, this is not for me, I did nothing wrong, I have nothing to pay for, and they are going to be kicked into the maw, but a chance is given. And that's what I honestly would love to see as the standard. That no souls are directly judged as bad to the bone, unfixable, unrepentable, but that all of them are given a chance. As the term irredeemable, it's a very strong one. Imagine for just a moment the roster of characters in Warcraft. Is there truly one that you would consider to be irredeemable? Old gods might be an easy pick, but they've already distinguished the difference between mortal souls going to the Shadowlands and magical souls going elsewhere. In the case of the old gods, it's potentially back to the realm of the Void Lords, as well as we need to consider their nature. I've used the example of a scorpion stinging you. Is that scorpion irredeemable, or is it just part of its nature? In the case of the old gods and their creatures, they just kinda do what's in their nature. So mortal souls, that's the category that we're looking at, the characters that we know. Take an Arthas, for example. If he would be brought before the Arbiter, would he be considered irredeemable? I really don't think so. Once, there was actually a whole lot of good inside of him. Once he was a prince, with flaws to be certain, flaws that the darker forces played upon, flaws like wondering why the light took so long to bless him, or why his dad was only proud on the day that he became a paladin, instead of just embracing the light and the compliment and the moment. Flaws like being afraid of commitment with Jaina, or flaws like the pressure of the crown, wanted to do the best for his people. No doubt that Arthas wasn't a perfect champion that made all the right choices, but that's also the part that makes him such an interesting character. Now we have had the argument that a lot of what Arthas did after picking up Frostmourne, that is not on him, that they took a piece of his soul, they made him an agent of the Lich King, and so he doesn't have any blame for all the events that happened afterwards, but I don't entirely agree. First, there's the road that leads to him picking up Frostmourne to begin with, ignoring the counsel of his friends, ignoring the counsel of his loved ones, pushing them onto Strathholm, and there it was, where he made a terrible choice.
This entire city must be purged. How can you even consider that? There's got to be some other way.
Damn it, Uther. As your future king, I order you to purge this city.
You are not my king yet, boy. Nor would I obey that command even if you were.
Then I must consider this an act of treason.
Treason? Have you lost your mind, Arthas?
Have I?
Even to this day, people are still debating whether or not he should have purged Strathholm. If there was something else, anything else that he could have done differently, or if his actions were actually justified. That's the cool part, as even Arthas himself doubted in that moment if what he was doing was right, which was symbolized by his light powers flickering, his conviction wavering, but he couldn't show it in front of the men, and so he pushed on. Pushed on after Melganis, right into Northrend. Well, Uther, he told the king what had happened. King Tyrannus then ordered their forces to come back home, but Arthas wouldn't let them. He burned their ships, blamed it on the mercenaries. Then Myrddin, he warned him about Frostmourne and the curse that's placed upon it. Again, Arthas didn't listen. He made a choice, and that is when the cursed Runeblade enters the picture. So that means that there's already a whole chunk of road that he walked, a whole bunch of choices that he made along the way that could have led to a different outcome. Then, while wielding Frostmourne, it's not like he became a mindless zombie without any thoughts or feelings. He might have wanted it to be that way, he might have acted it to be that way, but it certainly wasn't the case. King Anastarion severed Invincible's legs, and that made Arthas quite upset. Assaulting Gul'dan, where Jaina might have been, had a flicker of pain run through him, but she was already sent off by Antonidas and not present during his assault. So Arthas, he was glad that he didn't have to fight her. Point being, there was still somewhat of Arthas left in there. He was not a mindless drone just following orders, but admittingly, picking up Frostmourne, there was definitely a shift in what he could or couldn't do than what he had already given up and what was going to be sacrificed even more by merging with the Lich King. And then, as the Lich King, he caused a whole bunch more pain and suffering. There's a lot that would be written on his Sin Stone. But there was also a lot of good in him that, with the right tools and methods, in my humble opinion, it might resurface in the afterlife. On stream, we also spoke about a Garrosh, but the Reverend read short, it confirmed that his deeds in life, they were not terrible enough for eternal suffering, somewhat of a bar to compare to others with. Even a Gul'dan was spoken about, and in the case of Gul'dan, once again, I would say that there's more to the story than, this is just an evil, irredeemable orcish spirit, lock it up and throw away the key. From the Harbinger episodes, we learned that his alternate version, it had to deal with being a crippled orc, searching for a place amongst his clan, and not finding it. Who knows what exactly did, but the orcs, they decide to kick him out, which takes him to the throne of elements, and the elements themselves, they also deny him. If those events wouldn't have happened, if the elements or his people would have embraced him, would Gul'dan have turned out the way that he did?
Drink, Hellscream. Claim your destiny. You will all be conquerors.
Probably. Because there was a mighty lust for power inside the orc. Power that he would do anything for, even sell out his own people, place their souls in the hands of the Burning Legion. Yet still, I would give Gul'dan a chance to pay for those sins. Would he pay for those? I honestly expected Garrosh to turn the Venthyr down, but he is chained up there, so who knows really. I'd expect the Gul'dan to be unable to pay for his sins either, and end up in the maw anyways. But a choice, a chance given, besides just being marked irredeemable, that would be rather cool. And that also flows into the question as to what kind of guideline do they use to even factor in the crimes of a soul? What method or guideline does the arbiter have to work with? Since at the end of the day, good or evil, it's all a matter of perspective.
All of you, the system that knows so much, you decide what's right or wrong.
Knowing that the Shadowlands accepts different planets, different realities, it's unrealistic to think that the same guidelines can be applied to everybody coming in. Imagine a planet where it's perfectly fine to eat each other, where on another that's a big no-no, that's a big old sin. You can't judge those souls equally. But what seems to be happening is that in Revendreth, they actually take that into consideration. They keep in mind what's alright to do from the domain that you come from, rather than this overall guideline. Sure enough, some of the sins that are passed around, they also apply to Azeroth, but the idea was sparked as we went through one of their side quests in Revendreth, and during this quest, we're asked to collect Sin Stones, the stones that describe the bad deeds that you've done in life. Being a true accounting of the foul sins of Gorak Skullcrusher, Karg of the Ubred people of Zamgra, First Eagle of Zar, cowards who hid from battle rather than fighting against the enemies of his clan, liar who befouled the ways of Zar with his deceit and mockery of the truth, traitor who negotiated a peace in return for being a puppet Karg for the invaders to use against his own people, singer who raised his voice to the heavens in violation of the laws of the Ubreds. Especially that last one. It could not be applied as a sin to a soul that flies in from Azeroth, for example, as they're unaware of the laws of the Ubred to begin with. I personally really like that, as it removes the idea that there's this overarching good or bad portrayed in the Shadowlands, and it's more about what the society you come from, that society has deemed good or bad. For those interested, by the way, there are a ton more Sin Stones to explore, if you're curious to deep dive into them. Dr. Constantine94 and latest, they've been adding them to the Wowpedia website, which I'll link in the description down below. As more interesting tidbits, they can be found amongst them, like hints at the Dragon Isles or the Mogu going to the Shadowlands. Some familiar names in there, and some new ones as well. It's really worth the time to check out. But for this video, we've reached the end. As I said at the start, I would really love to hear your take on this. Do you think that there are truly irredeemable souls that should be sent off directly to the Maw? And if so, who are you thinking about? Why? Tell me everything in the comments down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. And until next time, see ya!